there is no answer. To the question, why isn't MapleStory as fun anymore, there is no one specific be-all end-all answer that applies to everybody. See, the reason there isn't a definitive one-size-fits-all answer to the titular question is that which I found so charming and enjoyable about the MapleStory of old may be entirely different from what made you feel the same way. It's also possible you think it's just as enjoyable as it always was, perhaps even more so, or maybe you never even liked it to begin with. But with that being said, if you share the sentiment that MapleStory's lost a lot of the magic that it used to have, while I cannot give you your answer, I can give you mine, and in doing so, and explaining the logic behind that, perhaps you may find your own. So, let us begin with a general overview of Bartle's taxonomy of video game players. It is composed of two main axes, action versus interaction, and players versus world, which give us the four main player archetypes: explorers, socializers, achievers, and killers. Explorers are the people who like to dig around and explore the games they play. Socializers are the people who most enjoy games which can act as a vector for socialization. Achievers are the people who seek to accomplish goals in games, such as leveling, acquiring more powerful equipment, or some other measure of achievement. And while killers seem to have the most self-explanatory name, it's actually a bit more complicated than just killing. While there are people who enjoy the thrill of the hunt, as well as people who just want to cause mayhem, what it really boils down to for a lot of players is the joy of putting your skills to the test against others. Now, most players have a main archetype that they generally fall under, but can drift from quadrant to quadrant depending on their mood or the situation. And while this model has come under a fair amount of criticism, it's easy to understand and works well enough for our purposes. But if this sort of thing interests you, I'd recommend checking out Quantic Foundry's gamer motivation profiles. Now, I am a tiny bit of a socializer, a bit of an achiever, but mostly an explorer. When I play games, I love to wander around and see what secrets I can find. I love to dig up lore about the world. I love learning about the characters. And I'd love to show you how MapleStory went from being a game that catered to just about every type of gameplay I enjoy to just one. Or, to be more specific, how it went from being a very well-rounded experience for the socializers, explorers, and achievers alike, to a game that caters extremely hard to the achievers and gives everyone else basically nothing to work with. Maple World is huge, big, humongous, gargantuan, huge. It's pretty big, filled to the brim with beautiful, vibrant areas. And you would be hard-pressed to find a single person actively exploring it. Why is this? And keep in mind, this includes the so-called explorers such as myself as well, because the sense of wonder, immersion, and just the joys of exploration that I used to bask in while playing MapleStory are completely and utterly dead. The Orbis Tower, Ellen Forest, the Moolung Garden, Aqua Road. All these areas which are so expansive, so atmospheric, so immersive, and just so cool. Why would you ever travel through and explore any of these places? You have hyper teleport rocks now. You have Pantheon portal now. You have skills and other mechanics like Maple Guide and Boss Party that can teleport you pretty much anywhere you'd ever want to go. But why exactly are these mechanics in the game? Back in the day, to get between continents, you had to go to an airport, wait for a scheduled flight to arrive, board it, and then wait out the flight time before you arrived. And for someone like me, it was so cool, okay? It felt like you were actually departing on this grand adventure to a faraway land. And if you wanted to go somewhere that doesn't have an airport, you better get walking. Want to get to El Nath? You've got to catch a flight to Orbis and then climb all the way down the Orbis Tower first. Of course, this is something that I and many other people would complain about if it were a requirement today, but back then it was so cool. It felt like you were actually exploring the world. And this feeling was significantly enhanced by how amazing the music and visuals are in MapleStory. See, I may trash on this game a lot, but it truly is a masterpiece in terms of sound and art direction. Each area is distinct in a myriad of ways, from the background art to the monster designs to the music, and so every new area you visited always felt unique and fresh. Like, they genuinely managed to replicate that feeling of wonder and awe of when you step off a plane into a foreign country you've never been to for the first time. But waiting up to 15 minutes for a plane to arrive and then 7.5 more to reach a different area of the map has no place in the game MapleStory has become. So, what's changed? Two things. The game's shift in focus to dailies and weeklies, and the trivialization of pre-200 content. Now, I mentioned previously that mechanics such as Hyper Teleport Rock and Maple Guide make it pretty much effortless to get anywhere that you'd want to go. But for a significant portion of the game's existence, teleportation mechanics such as these were seen as luxuries, or in several cases just didn't exist at all. However, what made them go from a luxury to a necessity is how much running around you have to do for all your dailies and weeklies nowadays. Like, imagine if you had to walk on foot all the way from Vanishing Journey to Asteria every single day just to do your arcane symbol dailies. Imagine trying to do your weekly bosses. In fact, why don't I take you on the world-spanning odyssey you'd have to go to clear them without the use of fast travel mechanics. Ignoring Sengoku bosses and starting from Victoria Island, you can head to Sleepywood to fight Craw, then to the top of the Dark World Tree for Damien. Next, you can head through the interdimensional portal to arrive in Pantheon and walk all the way through Heliceum and the Tyrant's Castle to fight Magnus. You are now done with the first continent, and can now walk all the way back through the portal and up to the Victoria Island airport because you're heading to Edelstein. After landing, you get to walk all the way through the town's parks and alleys, taking the cable car up to the scrapyard, traversing up to and through the skyline, trampolining up onto the decks, and navigating your way through the ship's interior to face Lotus, after which you turn heel and head straight back to the airport, chartering a flight to Orbis. Upon your arrival, you get to climb all the way down the entire Orbis Tower, past the snowy peaks of Elnath, and into the fiery pits of the Dead Mine, where you fight Zakum. Back again, up and out, but instead of ascending the Orbis Tower, you head down into the Aqua Road, and cross all the way to the other side, emerging in the Korean folk town at the bottom of Ludus Lake's Helios Tower, which you painstakingly ascend in order to reach Ludibrium, unto the depths of which you will now descend to fight Papulatus, after beating whom you arrive at a choice. Climb all the way back down the Helios Tower, back through Aqua Road and up the Orbis Tower, or wait for a flight. After you've picked your poison and made it back to Orbis's airport, you board a ship bound for Ariant, fighting Hilla in the ancient city of Aswan. Fly back to Orbis and board another flight, this time to Leafrey, where you can find a halflinger who can turn you into a dragon, allowing you to fly up to the Temple of Time. First up, head all the way through the Memory Lane, the Road of Regrets, and the Road to Oblivion, arriving at the Forgotten Twilight to fight Pink Bean, all the way back into the Gate to the Future, past the ravaged fields of Areve, through the Knight's Stronghold, Cygnus, back again, and finally through the Gate of the Present into the Arcane River, where you fight Lucid, Will, and so on. And having to go on this grand voyage every week, or even just having to walk up and down the Arcane River every day for your symbol dailies, I think would not just be unacceptable, but nigh unplayable. The shift in focus to daily, weekly content demands easily accessible fast travel mechanics. They are no longer a luxury, they are a requirement. And their being a requirement absolutely obliterates the value and joy of exploration. The intrinsic reward of traveling to all these different areas, exploring all these different maps, being immersed in the music and art, being enveloped in this feeling that you are on on an adventure while heading to your next destination has been completely and utterly destroyed because you just TP in, kill 200 mobs, TP out. And it's a situation made even worse by the second point, the trivialization of pre-200 content. You can reach level 200 in one day. Even if you're a brand new player, no Legion, no bonus EXP coupons, no burn, no nothing. If you follow a leveling guide, you can reach level 200 in under 24 hours on just about any character. Of course, this on its own isn't actually much of an issue at all. The problem arises when you factor in how map design changes once you hit 200 and enter the Arcane River, and what you're doing to get there. Take a look at this. Here is an overlay of all the connections between the different areas of Maple World. Now compare to the connections in the Arcane River. Going from the crisscrossing spider's web that connects the continents of Maple World to the near straight tunnel that is the Arcane River is a difference of night and day. And it gives you basically zero opportunity to actually dig around and explore. And what exactly are you doing to get to the Arcane River in the first place? You're farming. You go to one map, or to be more specific, you hyper-teleport to one map, kill mobs for 10 to 15 minutes, go to the next map, farm for 10 to 15 minutes, maybe go to a theme dungeon and hold down spacebar to skip all the dialogue. Repeat, 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 all the way to 200 with very little deviation. But let's say you're an explorer like me, and you decide to strike out on your own and do some unorthodox questing. Well, if I can make a recommendation, I'd suggest you read some of the stories in the Grand Athenaeum. In particular, I quite enjoyed the White Mage, Empress in Training, and Winter Bard chapters. And guess what? For reading any 3 of the stories catalogued by the Grand Athenaeum, Thales the Librarian will give you a grand reward. 21 days of access to your second pendant slot, and just the item to fill it, the Scholarly Pendant. An item that can only go up to 8 stars, isn't part of an equipment set, and has generally terrible stats compared to any of the other easily accessible pendants on the market. Or, if you farm 20 of these story fragments from the monsters in the Grand Athenaeum, then Thales will allow you to use your second pendant slot for 7 more days! Or you could just cough up half an Ursus run worth of misos at the general store for a 28-day extension. Of course, back when the Grand Athenaeum was released, I remember thinking it was pretty good. I wasn't even close to clearing Arcarium or Horntail on any difficulty on my, level 127 Demon Slayer. And so any item that gave stats cleared the bar for me. And at the time, I thought the idea that I could access my second pendant slot without having to spend real money was insane. However, over the years, pre-200 content has been repeatedly trivialized through EXP reductions, new bosses and equipment sets, mechanics like burning, and being able to buy things like the second pendant slot from the general store for misos. And this has ruined the extrinsic reward for exploring and interacting with the majority of available content in Maple World. You will not get anything of notable value for completing the Grand Athenaeum, or Ellen Forest, or really, the exceeding majority of pre-200 content. So, circling back to the beginning, the reason you will be hard-pressed to find a single person actively exploring Maple World is the severe lack of any intrinsic or extrinsic rewards for doing so. The easily accessible fast travel mechanics used to accommodate the shift in focus to dailies and weeklies has killed the intrinsic reward of exploring the various regions of Maple World, and new gear sets and progression mechanics have killed a lot of the extrinsic reward for completing a lot of the content it has to offer. Plus, consistent nerfs to EXP required to level mean you now tear through the level ranges where you once would have spent weeks farming and exploring. And you do almost all of it by grinding. Basically zero questing, or really just interacting with the world in general. All in all, you have little to no reason to stick around and explore Victoria Island, or Reeve, Edelstein, or whatever your character's starting area is, nor do you have any reason to venture unto the cloud-shrouded Isles of Orbis, nor the snowy valleys of Elnath, nor the burning deserts of Ariant, nor the labyrinthian underground of Megatia, nor the foggy hills of Mulong, nor the blocky depths of Ludibrium, nor the thick jungles of Leafree, because you will not be rewarded for it, intrinsically or extrinsically, in any meaningful way. TP in, farm for 20 minutes, TP out, all the way to the Arcane River. And once you get there, your ability to explore gets constrained down to basically nothing. You do the main storyline of each area and that's it. There are no secrets for you to find, characters to meet, or quests to complete. It's all dailies from now on. Oh, and if you do want any more of that story, then you're gonna have to grind at least a couple hours for it, and a couple dozen in the later areas. And so, there you have it. That's my answer. Because with all that, a massive chunk of what someone like me enjoys in games has been almost entirely removed from MapleStory's core experience. Of course, it's not just the explorers who've been neglected over the years. The social aspect of MapleStory is also a hollow shell of what it used to be. Largely for the same reasons as the decay of exploration, as you'd regularly run into people out in the world while you were exploring, with the airports in particular serving as a very common place to meet people to party up with. Not to mention how huge party questing used to be. And although there has been a slight course correction in that regard with the return of Monster Park Extreme, the idea of strangers running into each other out in the world, partying up and exploring with each other is long dead. You've got your guild and you've got your henny-hos, and that's about it. So, what's left? Content for the achievers. They went from having a pretty significant amount of content available to suit their tastes to having pretty much the entire game from top to bottom geared towards them. How do you get stronger in MapleStory? You grind. A lot. An obscene amount, in fact. You can grind for thousands upon thousands of hours in MapleStory and not even get one character to max level. As of the making of this video, the max level in MapleStory is 300. So why don't you conjure up a guess at how long it would take to grind 1% XP at level 290? 9 hours. By the way, the person who subjected themselves to this is a bishop named Niru. And in the years since this video was uploaded, they've settled into the #1 spot in the race to 200 at level 295. So, how about another question? Of the cumulative amount of EXP you have to obtain to get from level 1 all the way to level 300, at level 295, what percent of the way do you think they are at? They are 34% of the way to level 300. Of course, at the moment leveling past 280 or 285 at highest actually provides you with very little in terms of strength. And also, as previously mentioned, leads into an absolutely obscene exponential curve of EXP required to level. If you actually wanted to get stronger, you'd be much better off grinding stuff like Legion, a system where your 42 highest level characters are summed up into your Legion level, with you unlocking powerful bonuses at certain cumulative checkpoints. These characters that you're grinding for your Legion also happen to have link skills, which you can use to make your other characters stronger. You've also got stuff like arcane and sacred symbols, V-skills, familiars, traits, monster park medals, Tower of Oz rings, your inner ability, all of which serve to make you stronger, so that you can clear powerful bosses which provide you with gear which you can upgrade with potential, Star Force, bonus stats, and more, so that you can clear more powerful bosses which give you better gear that you can upgrade all over again. There's also professions and crafting, a housing system, achievements, monster collection, guild content, and there's just so much stuff to do in MapleStory now. So many goals to achieve, and so much of it revolves around just knuckling down and putting in the time to grind it out. Of course, as previously mentioned, I am a bit of an achiever, so I can enjoy this type of stuff to an extent, but overall, yeah, if you're an achiever, maybe you're having a good time. But personally, I really hope Blue Protocol is good. I'll see you in the next one.